Started out with a paper route as a 15-year-old boy. Worked in a landscape nursery. I worked at an amusement park, water park. I worked in many different restaurants along the way.
Well, I worked in a museum where we prepared specimens for studies, so they would skin them, and then they would collect the bones, and they would measure bones, they would measure how long the specimen was, how much fat content, they would do genetic studies. So I actually, for about 2 or 3 years, skinned mammals.
What was that at?
So I worked at the Museum of Southwestern Biology, which is at UNM.
Mm-hmm.
They have a whole museum, and one side's birds and one side's mammals, and I worked in the mammals division.
I sold insurance. I was a life and health insurance salesman for a while. I've worked for a computer software company. I've worked for the post office. I've worked for a grocery store a couple of times.
In high school, I worked at Walmart down off of Central and Zuni, and I was there for several years. And then I worked a couple of odd jobs as a secretary or receptionist, and then eventually I went into education where I did educational assistant for twice exceptional programs, things of that nature.
That would be in restaurants.
Just restaurants or other places?
For the most part, in other cities, other states. Colorado, California, Taos, and Santa Fe.
Mostly my job as an EMT. I was an EMT for 14 years. I did do some cooking in a restaurant. I did work as a psych tech.
A psych tech?
Yeah, like in a mental health facility.
Oh, okay.
And that's about it.
Well, for most of my career, it's involved working with children or students. I've coached. I've taught both middle school and high school. U.S. Agency for International Development in West Africa, where I was basically gathering statistics for them on gender equity in schools, checking out the number of schools that were available to students in a remote African setting in West Africa. The village I lived in was called Ajada in the country Benin. So I worked in that genre, mostly just in some segment working with education or with kids.
It was a busser. It was a pretty good one.
Here?
No, busser.
No, but here.
Oh, jobs teaching.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I've only taught
No,
here.
no.
Wait, what?
What jobs have you had before teaching?
Oh, yeah, I was a
I'm
busser.
saying, yeah, but like here in Albuquerque.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can think of anything really crazy. I've kept my wits about me. I've kept an eye out. I bet you something crazy's happened and maybe I didn't notice.
Well, I'll use a recent example. I had one student that was trying to illustrate a point. He got up and pulled his pants up, like Urkel, you know, he Urkeled his pants and started tottering around singing. You know, it was hilarious. It was not super crazy. You know, there was no fire involved, but it was still fun.
Actually, this year, I just remembered. So one of the first days when school started this year, there was a student who had one of the new e-cigs
Oh, yeah.
and was smoking it while I was teaching. And I had no idea that he was
Oh,
doing that.
wow.
I didn't see him. I had other students come tell me that happened. So.
Well, I wouldn't say it was done in my class, but we, in the school that I was at previous to here, we would go on a retreat.
Yeah.
And so we all gathered just outside of the cafeteria, and as we were waiting to be let in to have dinner, some of the kids decided that they were going to crowd surf me. So 2 big husky football players lifted me up and sent me across the crowd.
Were you like, woo?
Well, I was a little terrified because I thought they were going to drop me.
I think to pass a semester, one kid asked me once what he could possibly do. He says, well, sing these songs. And I said, well, I can sing those real well. I said, well, stand on your head and sing them. So he did. He passed the semester.
I don't know if I should tell you this, but when I was a first year teacher, I can't remember what we were doing, but we had downtime in my classroom. It was like I gave my students free time, which I will never ever do again. They left class. I didn't know there was anything wrong. They left class and told another teacher that they had been playing strip poker.
Wow.
They weren't stripping. I mean, obviously, if they were stripping, I would have noticed that. But
Yeah.
they were doing something that qualified as strip poker.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think that's the top one so far.
No free time ever again.
One thing that stands out is when I was, my first teaching job out of college was in the inner city in Chicago, and one of my students who was really angry like, literally picked up a desk and threw it across the room because he was mad, not specifically at my class, but just in general. I also had some students fighting in my class one time, and one student had a cast on his arm, and he punched the other kid, and like blood flew everywhere. That was probably one of the craziest things. Just in general, besides that, when I was teaching in Chicago, we had pigeons living in our classroom because the windows were broken the whole year. Let's see. So that's.
Did you like feed the pigeons?
No, because they would poop in there too. I didn't want the we tried to shoo the pigeons out every morning, and then they would come back in every night. And I was trying to think. I taught in Cairo, Egypt, also, and I was trying to think. One day in Cairo, a boy's mom was really mad at him for some reason, and she came into the school, came into the classroom, and started like with her shoe, like hitting her son in the head because she was mad, and she was basically publicly shaming him. That was pretty crazy too, and it was in Arabic, so I didn't know what was happening, and he just was like, "Sorry, mom, sorry," and he was really embarrassed. But
There was a fight. It's pretty bad. Yeah, it was yeah, this and stuff.
Did you have to break it up?
Yeah.
You just didn't let it happen.
What?
You just didn't let
Well,
nature take its course.
Wait. Yeah.
I'm a really buff Chippendale dancer. In my off time, I make thousands of dollars.
It's awesome. I would watch your show, but no.
No, I'd like to slog some miles and run some distance events, but maybe I've talked about it a lot in class. I've run some trail marathons.
Yeah, you're Mr. Bihar, huh?
Yeah.
I play a lot of video games. I played World of Warcraft for 4 or 5 years. So
Wow.
yeah.
That's really cool. I've never met a teacher who played any type of game.
Oh, well, you haven't met my mom. She plays too.
Actually, this year, I just remembered. So one of the first days when school started this year, there was a student who had one of the new e-cigs
Oh yeah.
and was smoking it while I was teaching, and I had no idea that he was
Oh,
doing that.
wow.
I didn't see him. I had other students come tell me that happened. So
Well, I wouldn't say it was done in my class, but we, in the school that I was at previous to here, we would go on a retreat.
Yeah.
And so we all gathered just outside of the cafeteria, and as we were waiting to be let in to have dinner, some of the kids decided that they were going to crowd surf me. So 2 big husky football players lifted me up and sent me across the crowd.
Were you like,
Well, I was a little terrified because I thought they were going to drop me.
Most of my hobbies tend to be language oriented music. Listening to a lot of music. I grow a lot of food. I cook almost everything I eat. So I think a lot of that's not really too well hidden. I don't think I have any hidden things.
I think everyone knows everything about me. I'm not very deep. I'm pretty transparent. So I think everyone knows I love to cook and I love food and I garden. I love to read. I don't know. Yeah, I can't think of anything that people wouldn't know about me. I knit like a little lady.
well, one of my hobbies is road biking, and so I've done several centuries where you ride 100 miles in one day, like including the Santa Fe Century and a couple in Colorado. Another thing, a Along with that is I've been to the Tour de France 3 times to see Lance Armstrong, even though that didn't end up the best for him.
I can play the piano.
Oh,
Yeah.
like completely?
Yeah, I can tickle the ivories pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, I think being aware, being alert, being organized, keeping an open mind, caring about others, learning from others, all of those things, if you can bring them together, and stay healthy. All those things I think can come together to help you meet your goals.
Do what makes you feel satisfied in life, because if you don't do what you're happy with, then you won't enjoy life, and that's the important thing, is to enjoy life.
I feel like the nutrition class is really an important class because it really touches on and really has students look at their own eating
Yeah, it really did.
and
I
and
remember.
yeah, and really identify what it is that they're eating in their lifestyles, and how if it's not if they're not eating very well, how that really can damage their health later in life. And so I feel like it's an important class because there's not other classes like mine.
School is what you make it, so what you put in is what you get out.
Whatever you start, finish it up. Always, 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 always. Do the best you can, no matter what it is. Even if something you don't like or something you're not interested in, you'll always do well by just finishing it as well as you can. Everything you take, everything you study, sticks with you somewhere in your head. All the connections you make stay with you too. Doesn't even have to be very strong connections, but in everything you learn, you're not going to remember forever. But that you put a lot of effort into doing as well as you can, it does stick forever. So you always do better in the long run if you just apply yourself as best you can.
I think the biggest advice that I would give students just for high school is to find a place that you belong. Find a club or an activity. Find a way to belong here. Don't wait for belonging to happen to you, because I think that's what I did. And it doesn't work that way. You have to go create the place that you belong. People won't just welcome you in like, oh God, come with us, you belong. You have to go do it.
Well, I always just encourage my students to work hard, and you know that anything they want to be is really attainable. Like a lot of things that we think aren't easy, like I was just in a small town in Minnesota with 4 siblings, like just one person, and I had that goal in my mind that I wanted to travel and live abroad. And so just setting your mind to it, I don't think we really realize how easy achieving some of those things we want to do is. Like it can happen. Take advantage of opportunities. Like luckily I was able to, when I saw an opportunity happen, like for applying for a fellowship and teaching in Egypt, I was able just to take advantage of it. And I think sometimes just those easy first steps of maybe applying for something, like sometimes we think, oh, we'll never get it. But just taking that first step of applying, for example, that ended up being a great, you never know what somebody's going to like about what you have to say or something. So I would say never be afraid to try.
Don't give up.
Baller, yo.
Okay.
I guess I'm pimping.
I'm a baller.
You're a baller?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Sure.
I'm pimping and a baller then.
You're a pimpin' baller?
Yep.
Okay. Baller?
Well, I'd have to say, since I'm the teacher with my 37 students, that I'm definitely the pimp.
Okay.
None of the above. I'm a G.
Probably a baller. Yeah. Alright.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very
Alright, thanks, Ms. Roberts.
No problem.
Well, thank
Great.
you, Ms.
Thank you.
See you. Alright, thank you, Ms. Finn.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alright, thank you, Ms. Thomas.